Oh man, it has been so long, but now is the time to catch up with everything. I have watched a decent amount of anime over the past 11 months and played some interesting games. Not a whole lot though because I was busy obviously, but I took time out for everything that will be on this list. We are here to cover them all in order. What order, you may ask? Well, this is how it will go down. Firstly, we have the mind-numbing category. These are the shows that I thought were a complete waste of my time and I do not recommend at all. Secondly, the fumbled category. This is the stuff that I thought I was going to enjoy till the very end, and then the entire thing went straight down the garbage can. Third one is the participation trophy category. This will cover stuff that had the potential but just didn't hit the mark. The type of stuff I have seen before, but I also have seen better execution for them. Following that is the nice start, don't blow it category. This is about more long running stuff like multiple seasons of different shows or franchise games that I am currently in the middle of playing. And lastly, we have the totally worth it category. Shows and games that I enjoyed from start to finish and have very little to complain about. Maybe so little that it's not even worth mentioning. Let's go from bottom to the top, and none of the shows or games are ranked in any way in their respective categories. It's just more of a tier list, if you will. The mind-numbing category. Starting off with arguably the most boring and lifeless show I've watched. A Sign of Affection. I can enjoy a good romance anime. I've actually watched quite a lot more recently than I thought I would have, but my god, this show is a complete slogfest. The characters are so one-dimensional and have little to no personality. The entire show is about characters getting more involved in other people's relationships, sometimes forcing themselves into it or tagging along to get a partner of their own. The premise was actually quite promising, but the execution is horrible in my opinion. We don't get to see more of a life or what hobbies the characters have in their lives, and all the screen time they get is spent on them swooning, blushing and thinking about the other person they are interested in. I had a very hard time watching this show, it was so bad. The production is actually pretty good though. The show looks good even though the male characters look a bit weird to me personally. But besides that, there is no reason to watch this. Number 2. Quintessential Quintuplets. Why did I ever think this show was gonna get better? There are times when one would be like, hey, how bad could this be? Maybe I judged this too harshly and it wasn't that bad. But boy was I wrong when I thought about this show. I have only watched season 1 and I'm not gonna watch any more of this show. I know there is a movie that came out a few years ago, and I also know there are people out there who eat up shows like this, but I want to stay away from this. The first season basically has no real direction. There are a lot of random moments that are supposed to come off as funny, I guess, like this cooking competition that two of the girls had, but these things come out of nowhere. There were a few decent episodes like the one with Ichika when they reveal her aspirations and who she wants to be in the future, and there is this one culture festival or fireworks festival, but that's kind of it. These were the only episodes I somewhat thought were good. Everything else is just bland and there is so much fan service. I know that is why people ate this show up, but I'm never going back to this. Number 3. No Gun's Life. I can't believe I was ever excited for this show. This is a bit of an old show now. It came out in 2019 and I was actually really interested in it. There are some bad shows that I can think of, like maybe it's just not for me. But this one, no. You could be doing anything besides watching this show. Literally anything. I kind of went into this because the main character had a gun for his head, which I thought was kind of interesting. Because in Dorohedoro, you have the main character who lost his head and lost his memories, and it's kind of the same here. But the actual story and mystery they try to create is so boring to sit through. This would be a show that had a good premise but just didn't go in the direction it should have. I don't recommend this show at all. Just forget about this show. Remove it from your watch list and never look back. Trust me on this one. Next up we have the Fumbled category. I'm gonna try and play a little safe with this category, and we started off with Claymore. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually really enjoying Claymore. The premise was decent, the story progression was really good. The twist in the story, getting to know the character's backstory and fights, it's all done very well. That is until you reach around episode 21. The finale and everything leading up to it is done extremely poorly. I've heard that it is because it is yet another case of the manga not being finished and the show caught up to the chapters, so the production company had to make up their own ending, which really sucks in my opinion. I won't take the good parts of the show away, but I genuinely don't think it's worth it when the payoff is so underwhelming. Like, all they do in the last episodes is yell out each other's names and scream a lot. The fight choreography is kinda bad near the end as well, and they don't have much going on in the last 5 episodes. I actually fell asleep while watching the last 2 or 3 episodes. Number 2. Love Chunibyo and Other Delusions. I don't even know what to make of this one. This show is arguably the greatest mess of a show that I enjoyed and despised at the same time. I actually think the show is hilarious, to be honest. The comedy is done really well and huge props to the voice actors for that. The production quality for the fights are really good for the 2012 show. However, when the time comes for the show to delve into story and plot, that's the moment where you have to turn your brain off because those aspects of the show suck. I especially despise Dikomori, who apparently isn't even a character in the light novels. She is an anime only character, and I have to question why people think this was a good addition to the show. Was it the ongoing tropey characters from that time? I don't know, but all I know is that I want to grab her by her stupid pigtails, swing her around and throw her into the Shadow Realm. Like, seriously, check out this scene where Rika is getting on this train and Yuta and the rest of her friends are here to see her off. It is a somewhat subtle scene where everyone is visually showing how they didn't want Rika to leave, and it's all going really well. That is until Dekomori opens her stupid mouth and ruins the whole scene. She states the most obvious things and she just yells at Yuta, and I hate it. No disrespect to the VA though, it's not her fault. The story is kinda complicated, to be honest. It's difficult for me to tell how it progresses, but the main thing is that Rika can't come to terms with the past trauma and creates this 8th grader syndrome to avoid it, while her older sister is trying her best to snap her out of it so she can face reality. You can try watching it, but don't blame me because I'm not gonna strongly recommend this one. Number 3. Mushoku Tensei. I know people are gonna hate me for this one, but I genuinely don't like this show anymore, and I don't recommend it to anyone. I really enjoyed both parts of the first season, but when I finished the first part of season 2, I said to myself, I don't like this and I don't like where they might take this. To be fair, there are good points in the show. The whole Rudius becoming more of a strong and kind-hearted character with the new party members was really nice to watch. And the fights were built up really well. You could tell that they weren't just forcing the emotion behind the characters' developments. And then they throw it all out of the gate because Rudius finds out that he has ED and the entire season 2 decides to focus on that part. This is so stupid, to be honest. They show him enrolling into the academy for investigating the teleportation incident, but the greater focus is on him trying to desperately find a cure for his ED. It also doesn't benefit him because of what he did and said everything about Sarah behind her back until he got exposed for it. The story doesn't progress exactly how I expected. Instead of focusing on more crucial details that would help Rudius find his mother, they kind of info-bomb the audience with a huge chunk of explanation in episode 9 with the masked girl who appeared in the second part of season 1. They don't exactly build up plot points in the previous episodes that the audience can connect together in any meaningful ways, and just sort of kill time by introducing tropey characters and try to show Sylphie and Rudius reconnect romantically. Seriously, there are better things to focus on in here, and it doesn't seem like they're headed in that direction for the second part of season 2 either. As far as Rudius goes, I genuinely don't like him anymore. He doesn't make any efforts to make a better person, and if I knew a guy like him in real life, then I wouldn't want to be in the same room as him. I know there are still fans of the show and I can't change their minds on this one, but you really can't deny that this is a massive step down from season 1. Now we move on to the participation trophy category. I think RN is a pretty good place to start off with this category because it is much like season 1, a pretty good time pass. Although I will say that season 2 was a bit boring at times for me. They have these episodes where random one-dimensional characters drop in who we have never seen before to cater to people who have this weird sense of humor, but I wasn't buying any of it. Besides that, I don't think it needed an over-the-top animation production, and obviously, as you can tell, it doesn't. I do think some areas were a bit rushed, including the ending. There were character relationships that were randomly retconned, probably because the manga fans didn't like how things were going. Like, I don't have an insane amount of praise for this show, but I didn't hate it either, and I think it did get the job done, which is to kill some time. If you can look past some of the more boring episodes, then I think you can kill some time off your hands with this one as well. Number 2, Dark Gathering. Dark Gathering was a show that was interesting at the very least. It doesn't have an outstanding premise and some of the twists are very predictable. However, there are certain stories about curses and spirits that were actually quite interesting to follow. I think I would have enjoyed this show a bit more if it was 12 to 13 episodes instead of being a 25 episodes long, because the good parts can be decently crammed into that span and it would have still promoted the source material well enough. I also don't think it is beneficial for the studio to make a 25 episode show that has an average animation when they can balance out production costs by covering better story content and still save up for good animation. Once again, I think it's a fairly decent show and one might pick up the manga if they like this. I, however, have not read anything from the manga just yet, but who knows, maybe I will change my mind in the future. Number 3, The Fragrant Flower That Blooms With Dignity. This one will come off as a surprise because how much people adore this anime right now, but I can't think of a better place to put this one at. I can't give this show more credit than it deserves. Karuhana is a show that is somewhat enjoyable for me, but it has some of the same problems that I had with A Sign of Affection. Don't get me wrong, this is clearly a better show and we see characters hanging out and doing different things in their personal lives, but whenever the focus is on the two leads, that is when it's difficult for me to take the show seriously. I don't know if it's just age catching up to me, but I'm tired of these perfect and ideal type moments and scenes where one character is talking to the other and out of nowhere someone will say something super inspiring to the other person and it changes their whole perspective. Like, that's not how things work. Time doesn't slow down and the wind doesn't blow out of nowhere. I actually enjoy watching the supporting cast interact more with each other where tensions get a bit high. However, the reasoning behind their attitudes toward each other is very cliche. It's like an amalgamation of different rom-coms anime into one, but unfortunately that doesn't include Kaguya-sama. I don't watch this every week, but I might binge it in the future just to pass time, and also because I don't really like dropping shows midway. Like, I have watched some horrible shows too, mind you, so I think I can definitely sit through this one. Number 4, Akudama Drive. I've had Akudama Drive for a while in my watch list, so I thought recently that since I've been trying to catch up with so many shows, I might watch this one as well. I've got to say that I see the good in the show and I see why Tomohisa Taguchi gets so much credit for his direction because the show doesn't bore you. It's not a very deep story, it's kind of reminiscent of the concept of Suicide Squad but maybe not on the highest potential. I will give it credit for not being as bad as the 2016 movie though. The nighttime looks really great because of all of the neon lighting effects, the fights are fun to watch, the voice acting is pretty decent and I think this pretty much sums up the pros of the show. For the cons, I will start off with the opening song. It is terrible. I thought I'd get used to it, but 3 episodes in and I wasn't having it. I skipped it every episode moving forward. I did like the ending song, although I don't entirely remember that one. Some of the characters play into some heavy tropes which is like, whatever. They make some characters look cool and others kind of pushover or bossy, but I found most of the enjoyment out of watching Cutthroat, Ordinary Person and Hoodlum the most. Another good pastime if you don't have anything to watch in my opinion. Moving forward, we have the Nice Start Don't Blow It category. Let's start off with the Netflix DMC anime. Contrary to popular belief, I really like this show. I think the highs of this show are absolutely amazing, although the lows do hit pretty hard sometimes as well. I can see why people are so divided on this show, but I want to be optimistic for the future. The most enjoyable moments of this show come from the White Rabbit. I think they did an amazing job writing and developing White Rabbit into this villain who the viewer can agree with from time to time. From his perspective, it's a never-ending cycle of violence, and the story does a really good job at showcasing that why he is doing that. It's not that it's justified, but there is some truth to his words when it comes to showcasing how hypocritical and flawed some of the characters are in the show. I also really like Dante because he is very similar to what he was in Devil May Cry 3. I will admit that he is a bit inexperienced because he doesn't win every single fight and the story is not developed to a great extent. Dante is finding out about his origins and what happened to Virgil. His devil trigger isn't entirely developed, but he is still pretty fun to watch and the sense of humor is really good. I think Johnny Young Bosch did a great job voice acting in this role. Since we are talking about voice acting for a bit, I was very much happy and surprised to listen to Kevin Conroy. I was thinking, this character sounds a lot like Kevin Conroy, and then I pulled up the cast and there he was. I am concerned how they will replace him for the next season, because those are some very big shoes to fill. The music is incredible. Getting to listen Papa Roach and Evanescence again with remixes and new tracks was a treat. I still listen to Last Resort and Afterlife from time to time. Oh, and the opening was great. It was a huge surprise to hear Limp Bizkit in the opening. I know they uploaded the opening separately on YouTube to get more hype before the show got released, but I was avoiding everything and I wanted to go in completely blind, and I'd say it paid off. But that being said, the bad of the show includes Lady or Marianne Arkham, in case you don't know who that is. I think they made her very unlikable and very edgy with her cursing every 5 seconds like it was some sort of obligation and she'd die without doing it. I think most of the hate this show gets is because of her, because she has a lot of screen time and it can get so annoying to watch her. The other thing I didn't like was some of the animation choices because the CG doesn't look great. It's not the worst thing in the world and they could have done better, and this is one of the things they should get better at. I hope for the best for this series and I want it to get better because I have been in a similar boat before and I have prevailed in the past. Number 2. Blue Box. I could have kept Blue Box in the previous category, but I think this is one of the better shows that I've watched recently. Like, it has its issues and I still think of it as a good pastime, but the show actually has a progression, and at some points in the story I was actually a little concerned about what decisions the characters might take and what sort of repercussions it might have. It is admittedly a bit slow. I think the first half of the show is much stronger than the second. The story kind of slows down during the second part and only 1 or 2 minor things happen over the course of a couple episodes. But they make up for it because the last 2 to 3 episodes are pretty decently paced and fun to watch. I do dislike how there isn't much focus on the sports side of things and inclusion of characters who force themselves and meddle in other people's relationships. Like, just mind your own business. But it's not as bad as Wiki made them sound like, and they can be reflective at times. I'm kind of looking forward to watching season 2, but I don't know how long it will take for the main duo to get together. Hopefully they won't drag it out too much and I won't drop the series because there is a chance. Number 3. Project Cat Paper Lily Prologue. Finally, the first game on this list. Thankfully, I didn't play any bad games this entire time, and I want to start off with Project Cat because it is the prologue to Paper Lily, which I plan on playing in the near future. Project Cat isn't a long game, but it has very interesting ways on how you can direct the story. The player has been given a lot of freedom on how they want to approach the story, and there are 3 endings that you can get. The puzzles are not the most difficult, but I can see how one can still mess them up. I also really like how the game is very subtle in terms of communicating with the player depending on what decisions they might make. I did goof around a bit and I was trying to play into Cat's personality a little, which led to some hilarious moments. I'm not 100% sure where Paper Lily would go, but I'm definitely excited. This game hyped me up and I hope I enjoy my time playing through that. I got all of the achievements though. I know it's not a lot, but I think that just shows how much I appreciate this game. Number 4. Dandadan. Dandadan is one of the better shows I've watched recently. There is literally only one con in the entire show for me, but we will get to that later because it doesn't really matter all that much. I think the art style, story, choreography, voice acting, music, all of it is great. The show is really goofy and funny at times, but it can balance out those parts with some really emotional and heart-wrenching stories. Arguably, the best part about this show is that it's not predictable. The author did an incredible job of making very unfamiliar concepts of aliens and spirits coexist in the human world, but normalizing these interactions over the course of a very short time. At the same time, you can't exactly tell where the main story would go because you get introduced to the supporting characters who are facing their own issues, but only hope that it would tie in one way or another with the main plotline. The characters are shown to be somewhat selfless at times and are very transparent about how they feel about other characters, so when those character moments or developments are supposed to hit, they work really well. The only thing that bugs me are the cliffhangers. I didn't like the cliffhanger at the end of season 1 because it was a super weird scenario where they put Momo specifically in and then decided to wrap it up. Some of the other episodes also have some really interesting moments, but then the episode ends and then you have to wait a whole ass week to find out that they cut the moment short. But besides that, I hope the series only gets better, and I'm hoping that this is a show that can be considered one of the best new gen in the shonen category. Number 5. Toilet Bound Hanako. I don't have much to say about TBHK because I already knew what was gonna happen in season 2. I was watching it more from a critic's perspective because the manga is so good and the Perfect Picture arc was one of the best the series had to offer. So I was more interested in seeing how they would adapt it rather than seeing how the story unfolds. I will say they did a pretty good job. There are moments where I can tell that they are working harder on the new seasons, but also a little disappointed because the fights are still riddled with flashlines and effects to make it seem like the characters are moving fast and fighting, which kind of breaks the immersion. I didn't finish the arc that the series is currently adapting in the new season, but I did get pretty far and hopefully it's gonna be on the same level of quality as this one, if not better. Now we move on to the final category, which is the totally worth it category. I will start this list off with a game I played recently called What Remains of Edith Finch. This is one of the most emotionally unique experiences that I think one can go through. I don't want to spoil too much about this game because there is so much to love about it, and I want everyone who plays this game to experience it for themselves instead of me ruining everything. I will highlight some of the points that I think were incredible and I appreciate. Firstly, the presentation. I think not having a main menu screen and getting straight into the game is one of the best things about this, because there isn't a difficulty curve that you're supposed to go through and the game gives you time to play it as comfortably as possible. You don't have to pick a profile and set on what difficulty you want to play it on. It's just a story that you go through, and the fact that they throw you immediately into the action as you boot up the game is something I personally want to see in more games. Secondly, the narrations. My god, the storytelling is absolutely incredible and the devs really make you want to figure out what happened in each of the stories to all of the characters. I especially love the family tree in the pause menu. It is such a cool and simple way to see how much progress you've made in the game and what you might have missed. When the pieces start to align and you find out where the story is going, that's when they get you and throw a twist you don't see coming. And the fish part. I have no words to describe how incredible the fish part is. If you think Molly's story was amazing, just wait till you get to the fish part. The words on the screen and how they crumble, all of the exploration you can do, you cannot pass this game up. It's just too good. Okay, on to the next one. Number 2. Bleach 1000 Year Blood War. It has been a while since I talked about anything related to Bleach, but I have consistently kept up with the series, watched all of the seasons, and I couldn't be more happier about how this final arc is going right now. The lore and fight inclusions and how they removed the comedy bits from the manga is amazing. I agree with a lot of decisions that Kubo made for these new seasons, and especially season 3, because the final 3 episodes of that were just cinema. They were everything I could have envisioned from the manga. Like, I wanted them to adapt certain scenes with a unique attention to detail, and they did that, but they also gave so much more than just that to appreciate. All of the openings go hard, love all of the music variations from Sagisu, and can't wait for the final season. I really hope they do one very specific scene of Yua's Justice, where he has this dialogue about a nightmare, and I want them to play into translating that and how it foreshadows the conclusion of the series. I really loved what I've seen so far and I'm looking forward to the ending. Number 3. Sheepy A Short Adventure. I don't know how many people know about this, but this is such an amazing game and I was at loss for words when I was playing it, and I don't know how to explain it how I feel about it even right now. This is really one of a kind experience and it's a really impressive story that is highly reliant on environmental storytelling and the atmosphere. The devs did such a great job at making this entire journey such an immersive experience. The gameplay mechanics are so good and they get so much better over time. They all work together so well in these unique traversal puzzles, and they also have a little bit of drop of Souls-like combat. The story overall is so abstract and obtuse and you can't really tell where you're going next, but I personally always wanted more from this game, and not only did I get that, but there was always more to it. By the time I reached the final section, I knew the game was coming to an end because once again they set up all of the levels so brilliantly, but you can't put a finger on how it will end. The game looks gorgeous, it plays super well, the sound design and ambience is awesome. Like every single detail complements the other really well. Definitely worth checking out. I had a blast with this one. Number 4. Kimi ni Todoke. Next up is Kimi ni Todoke, and at this point this is my favorite show in the whole rom-com drama genre. I think that way because although the story from season 1 starts off in a similar fashion between the main duo, they very quickly include the supporting characters into the scene and try to develop personalities and show how characters deal with their own problems and also try out to help out their friends. There are some complicated scenarios for sure, and you feel like smacking their heads and just want the characters to talk to each other and not have these awkward moments that could impact their relationships. But at the same time, the stuff they are dealing with is not that simple at times. You can't just address them very easily, and transitioning from one situation to another takes time. I think it's very realistic in that sense, and that's why I like this show more than any other show in this genre. I don't want to make any comparisons, but although I like Kaguya-sama, I don't think the story has ever fully committed to character arcs consistently throughout. I think Kimi ni Todoke does that, and at the end of season 3 they absolutely nailed it. The show looks better than ever as well. It's really refreshing to see this art style getting modernized and feeling more vibrant. I'm hoping for a season 4, but if that's not happening then I might jump on the manga. Number 5. Layers of Fear 2016. Layers of Fear was the first game I played during my vacations, and boy was it great. This is such a good horror game because it lets players just deal with the whole atmosphere and the exploration. There is no game over or you died screen. There is only one way you can die in this entire game, and even that will progress the story. I don't know how that works, but the devs made it work and it's pretty cool. Not every puzzle will be solvable, but that's okay as well because there are 3 endings and you have to do certain things in order to get those endings, and the puzzles are a part of that. So unless you want the endings and achievements, you are perfectly okay. This was also my introduction to Bloober Team, and apparently this game got a remaster on the Unreal Engine. I think 2016 one was made on Unity. I don't know if the new one is a different story or a remaster, so if anyone knows about that, let me know in the comments. The story is great, the exploration pays off, and you can tell how games like PT were an inspiration behind this. I hope I get to play the new Layers of Fear they made as well, but as far as this one goes, it's great. Give it a shot. Number 6. Natsume's Book of Friends Season 7. Saving the best for last. Man, I can't tell you guys how much I love Natsume's Book of Friends. I started this series back in 2018 on a whim, and now this is in my top 3 of all time. It's very heartwarming, emotional, and really just all around a very beautiful show. Season 7 had the potential to be the best season in the series, and I think one can make that debate because the episodes are so well paced. The character development over the seasons has been great, and it's always a pleasure to get to know more about Natsume Reiko. I don't even want to spoil the premise of the show, but for anyone who wants a short summary of what the show is about, then I'd say that Natsume's Book of Friends is a show that explores the fragility of life and in a way teaches the audience about how one should celebrate it. It is a show that values friendships and bonds, and we get to see how important it is to preserve those bonds. It's a show about love, forgiveness, and the strive to be a better person every day. In a way, I think I have learned a lot from this show as well, but I don't think I'm quite there yet. The music for season 7 is beautiful. The OST hasn't changed much from the previous seasons, but the opening and ending songs are so good. I really love when the instruments start playing at the end of every episode and then it transitions towards the end credits. There is one episode in general, I won't tell which one, that I go back to just to watch the opening section and the ending section, and I get very emotional every time I watch it. It's a beautiful story and it was surely worth the wait. I can't wait for season 8. I know they have enough chapters to adapt, and I just hope the studio does commercially well enough to produce a new season. So that's everything for now. There are like 3 more things that I want to talk about, but I think they need a completely separate video. I will try to work on the next video while I'm finalizing this one, and I'm hoping to upload more consistently because I don't want you guys to think this is everything for another 11 months. I really miss uploading on YouTube, and I'll be trying to make a comeback as soon as possible. But that's it for this time. See you guys in the next one. Bye.